Good evening. Welcome to the Spiritual but Not Religious Show. I'm your host, George Lewis. I've got a great guest tonight, got a great guest lined up for next week. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the Spiritual but Not Religious Show, and I'd also like to talk to you a bit about the Spiritual Broadcasting Network and what that's all about and what our plans are. You know, one of the things that as a spiritual but not religious person, that I was really affected by the fact that, when we fill out a form, they ask you, are you what your religion is, what faith you are, and there was no space for people that, like myself, who was spiritual but not religious, other than other. And we really have no voice, and there's a huge numbers of us out there in the world today who have a spiritual belief, who believe in a God, a higher power, the force, the universe, the source, whatever you might want to call it, but who don't go to church. And so we have no real gathering place where we are known. And so Spiritual Broadcasting Network's intent is to be a voice for the spiritual but not religious community. And we're looking to bring you programming 24/7, internet television programming. Within 2 to 3 years, everything that you see on your television screen will be being fed to that screen by the internet. And our plan is to be in position to be able to take advantage of that. We've got a couple of new shows that are coming online here very shortly. As a matter of fact, within the next couple of weeks, I'll be sending out announcements on that. And we've got several people that were in negotiations with some really, really good shows, spiritual kind of shows that we'll bring you very shortly. My next week's guest is going to be a super big contrast to tonight's guest. And tonight's guest is exquisite, really a great guest. I've got Joanna Mogul, who wrote a book called The Prodigal Family, a Spiritual Roadmap for Family Reconciliation. And there are just so many families out there that are broken up and in pain and suffering difficulties. And her book is an excellent book to begin to heal those kinds of family wounds. My guest tonight has a very, very interesting name. She's Maria Elita, and she goes by the name Spiritual Dominatrix. And I tell you what, the people that I've mentioned that to, I've gotten some broad, different kind of remarks about the name. From, gosh, isn't that kind of an oxymoron? How does spirituality and dominatrix fit together? And I think by the time we get done tonight, you'll get a picture of just how they do dovetail and just how honest and forthright this lady is. She's just a super coach. She bills herself as part life coach, part soul coach, part business coach, part spiritual teacher, part intuitive guru, part inspirational author, part Wonder Woman, part kick you in the ass and tell it like it is truth trainer. And before I introduce Maria, I want to show you a couple of pictures here. This was Maria not long ago, and there was a transformation at some point, and this is the Maria of today, and that's a huge contrast, eh, Tommy?
Yes, I'd say so, George.
What do you think?
Contrast.
So we're gonna talk with Maria. We're gonna find out exactly what caused that transformation. Matter of fact, what caused her to get her into the coaching profession altogether. I want to read you one of the things that she says on her website, and this is really, really important to the name Spiritual Dominatrix in my mind. She says, "I demand you stop right now. Stop your moping, stop your excuses, stop your apologies for not living the life you really, really, really want to live. I've heard them all, and I've used them myself. I can boldly say that I was once the queen of procrastination and distraction." Well, I'm a Gemini. That's what we do. So let me get Maria on the phone. We've got Maria here, Tom?
Yes, remember to push her on, please.
Maria, I think I might have this. Let me get the volume set here. Yeah, there we go. And get Maria on screen for us. Maria, how are you this evening?
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. Looks like we're gonna have to do a little work with your volume. Let me see what I can do about getting you up. Okay. Hello again.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, we're a little bit better there. How's the volume on you?
It's a little bit better, yeah. But she's coming from Australia, so that's a long ways to go, I guess.
Yeah, and you can check in the chat there.
Yeah, I'll get on that right now.
We do. Well, I've been looking forward to our. Oh, we lost her, Tom. Are you on as far as the audio, Maria?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna re-invite you, and you'll need to. Tom will tell you. We want to get you back on. We've lost your video somehow.
Maria, you remember how to get back on. Just go right ahead and log back in. George will accept you, and we'll get you going again.
Yeah, all good.
Tom tells me you're one of our sharper guests as far as the technology is concerned. You've been around this for a while.
Yeah, I love it. I can't have enough technology in my life because I'm a Gemini. I love it.
Well, besides that, we couldn't do what we do without it, could we?
No, absolutely not. So I think I'm on again. How's that, guys?
Okay, I think, we got you back. Let me get you over here positioned right.
Get her pushed down here, and you're all set to go. Good, yeah.
All right, good. We got you. That's great. I don't know what's going on with that. But so I don't know if you watched the beginning, but I showed a picture of you. I guess it was about the time for your book, The Miracle, and the kind of coach you were at that point. Then I showed a current picture. We keep losing her on the video for some reason or other. And I showed, you know what, Maria, we may, because of the distance, we may be having a problem with the internet somewhere along the line there, but we keep dropping you, so you may just be here with voice with us tonight.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I can try and get on a little bit later. This is good.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, for our viewers' sake, what happens with the guest video, it's in a picture, what's called a picture-in-picture, and it doesn't actually become a part of the archived version anyhow. So all you're going to see was me on the archived, and you would see her on a live version in itself. So at any rate, I've really spent a lot of time with your work, with your writings. I am totally in alignment with you. I like the things you say. I like what you do, and I was surfing looking for potential guests, and you popped up, the spiritual dominatrix, and I told Tom, hey, listen, we got to talk with this lady. So.
Look.
What got you? Tell us what got you going. If I recall, you were at a place in your life where you were about to jump off a bridge.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting, George, though. The funniest thing that you've done is show those pictures of me before and me after. But the truth is, I'm actually both of those still. And I think the whole term spiritual dominatrix, it came around because people were coming to me for spiritual coaching, and they said, you know what, you're not light, you're not fluffy, you're not talking about angels, you're more like a spiritual dominatrix than you are an actual, like a spiritual teacher. And it came out as a bit of a joke from the people who I was coaching. And then I sort of went, I did marketing before I became this, and I thought, this is a good marketing brand. This is something good, not really done in spirituality. It's not done when we sort of put the shadow and the light together.
Yes.
And I thought, this is more who I am. So I claim that name, Spiritual Dominatrix. And it is just amazing what's happening and the books that are coming out and the people that I'm coaching.
It changed everything for you, didn't it? Pretty quickly. That you made that change just a few months ago, did you? Is that right?
Yeah, well, what happened was I had a couple of books out, and then The Naked Entrepreneur came out, and it was released in the States.
Right.
Late 2008. And in that book, this is where the joke started, and in the book it says, people see me more as a spiritual dominatrix than a psychic counselor. So. And from there, it was re-released back in Australia of April 2009. And this thing just started happening. Everyone was saying, that's Maria Elita. Oh, that's that spiritual dominatrix lady. So that's where and it was like, okay, well, I'll own this one. I'll claim this one. I'm really into people's faces. I really tell people the way it is and the truth. But I have a deep spiritual connection. I've had a miracle experience happen to me in my life. So it really is, everything to me, the spirituality part of it.
Well, I have been working with people, coaching people for the better part of 30 years. And what I've found is that it's really about the truth. Because if you're not working with truth, you're really not doing anything anyhow. And the real job is getting people to hear and to listen. And some people hear the gentle way, and some people need a 2x4 right across their forehead in order to be able to catch their attention. So
that's exactly right, George. That is so right. And this is the thing that was happening. I sort of did it that way. I did it the light way and the fluffy way, and I counsel people. But what I was seeing was they were coming more to me for psychic advice and not transforming their lives, then they were coming to me for inspiration and life transformation.
Right.
And I was like, I don't like this. I don't like the fact that they're having a one-off session with me, getting a reading per se more than a coaching session. And I changed it. A couple of years ago, I changed it. I stopped my business in that way. I just went, I'm not doing this anymore. I want to be with people who want to transform their life and want to stick around with me for, a couple of months of coaching or a couple of years of coaching, not 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Well, the thing that I've seen, and this really hits to what you're talking about with people wanting to come and get a reading for, psychic reading for 5 or 10 minutes and just have everything clear up, is that, basically we want the easier, softer way. We really want pixie dust, show me the magic, make it happen, but the idea of having to change and do some work comes pretty hard. It's not something...
You would know, George, that this is not a 5-minute, thing that we do. It's not a Band-Aid effect. We're not looking at our stuff for a day or a week at a time. We're looking at our stuff at a lifetime at a time.
Absolutely.
And this is, and I work at my stuff. I meditate every day. I read up spiritual scriptures every day. I'm around evolved people. I do this work. And for me, it's like, because, before you're reading about, I demand that people now transform their life. Now, in the age of technology, with what we know, with what we have on television, with the books that are available, people don't have excuse anymore for saying, oh, well, I just didn't know any better.
No excuse whatsoever.
There's none. And, I have been to that point where I have been rock bottom, and I call that in darkness. I call that space where, and I know I'm not the only one that's been there, I know many people have been there, where I just didn't want to be here anymore, and from that a miraculous experience happened.
I had my day there, so I really relate to you on that. Well, let's do this before we go into to some of what you teach and how you work with people. Let's go back and let's talk about where you came from, who you were. Give us a little brief idea of who you were as a child, and bring us up to that point where you were ready to jump off that bridge, so that people can relate to what how you got here. That's
great, George, because not many people ask me that question. Most people just say, what do you do now, and that's it.
Right.
So that's awesome. Now, I was born into a family who were very poverty-stricken. We had no money. My dad was a gambler. I am one of 6 children. My father is full Greek. My mother is Australian. And it was a very sort of, hard, normal Greek sort of upbringing. Dad was a very strong disciplinary. And we had no money. Dad, which is gambling, bankrupt the family quite a few times. And so we had nothing. We lived in a small house, which I actually live across the road from where it was at the moment, so I'm going back to my roots. And we lived in this tiny broken down house with my grandmother and grandfather who owned the house. So there was 8 people in a broken down little home, and that's how I grew up.
Oh, wow.
It was really, looking back on it, it was just normal. I didn't sort of think that we were the poor kids who didn't wear shoes to school and things like that. I just thought that's the stuff. And then what happened was, my dad sort of got me back together after.
Did he get into some kind of recovery, like Gamblers Anonymous or something like that, or just got it together?
No, I mean, when I was about 1, he was. I found out later that he actually tried to end his life too. He just couldn't handle the pressure anymore.
Right.
And then after that, he has his own story, as we know. Everyone's got their own story. But what happened was he sort of had an awakening. I think he was had maybe taken money from one of the other kids and was going down to the, the TAB in Corporate Australia. And he said he just heard the word abuse. And he just didn't do it. He just stopped doing it at that time and got himself sorted. So it wasn't like he went anywhere, he just stopped one day.
Good for him.
And then he, one thing which was his passion, he was having health problems. He was working in a fertiliser plant, shift work to raise money for the family. And that was one thing my dad was extremely good at, was raising money, but he just couldn't keep it.
Right.
So he could, do it. He was a great provider, but he just couldn't keep it. And then he loved fishing, and he was getting sick from working at the fertiliser plant. So then he decided, you know what, I love fishing. And he and my mother and my big brother decided to open a seafood shop. And the kids, younger ones, worked in it on the weekends. And then from there, like taking you very quickly over 20 years,
right,
this shop became into a family dynasty. And it went from being a little tiny, trailer with selling fish to being this empire, to the point it became a public company. And then that public company, well, the family was worth over $100 million.
Oh, wow.
And and that was, over in 25 years. But sometimes, everything's organic, and maybe our family wasn't ready for the wealth. That company then collapsed. So I, and half the family were actually at near bankruptcy or bankrupt. So I've seen from poverty and having nothing, and I've seen and I've lived in extreme wealth, and then I've had nothing again. Now, during that time when this whole family seafood empire dynasty was evolving, I, at the tender age of 16, met my husband. I was engaged at 17. I married him at 18. I had my first child at 19.
Wow.
Then two more at 21 and 23. I had the dream home of the mansion. I've actually put it on Facebook to start for sale again. When I was 25, I had, the mansion on acreage, luxury cars. I was married to a corporate man. My children went to private school. I had a holiday home on an island in the Whitsundays. And I went from, again, extreme levels very, very quickly.
Let me stop you for just a second. I want to ask you just for one question. When you were living that, when you were in the middle of the wealth, were you happy?
I thought I was happy until I sort of got to close to that. I was going through my Saturn return, and I suppose a lot of the spirituals would understand that. But
right.
When I was about 28, 29, I started questioning the whole thing.
Right.
I really started questioning it because it was like I started hearing voices. And I had a dream that was so profound and made me cry every day, where I saw myself as being something else that I wasn't, that fit into that Mrs. Blah, 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 as I call her. Mrs. Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Because it was a blah, blah, blah life, and everyone in that life is just blah, 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 look who I am. And it was sort of never really me. But I didn't know I wasn't happy until the last couple of years I started questioning it, and I got heavily involved in spirituality. And that was the thing that I started going, hang on, this isn't really fulfilling that something inside of me that these spiritualists are talking about.
Right.
I'm feeling empty, and I don't know why. And the worst part of that was I was feeling empty, and then I was feeling guilty because the modern world told me when I had the husband, the kids, the stuff, the money and all that, I would be the happiest girl in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out that way, though, does it? Unless that spiritual part's there, it's like having a big hole in your gut with the wind blows through, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels so empty, but also the way I sort of put it is, it's like swimming in spirits. Because you don't even know it. It's like you're just swimming upstream in spirits, because you're sort of like drowning in this space where you thought was all nice and clean and lovely and beautiful, but it ends up feeling like that because none of the pretty stuff and none of the Louis Vuitton handbags and none of the $1,200 shoes mean anything at a certain point.
Exactly.
And you feel just like you're drowning in it.
Well, you get to a place where the only thing that it seems will satisfy that desperate need is more, and then when more doesn't do it, I hit that point, and it was pretty frightening for me, to be honest with you. I thought, wealth and fame was going to make me whole in some way, and I was going to be wonderful. When it didn't happen that way, it was like pretty shocking.
No, and this is why why I think a lot of the, Hollywood starlets, and actors, you find them, wanting to commit suicide.
Absolutely.
You find them taking pills. And because people just go, why would that person do that? Because it actually brings up how disconnected you are from the spirit. It is one of the biggest eye-openers, because when you reach the top, the pinnacle of what you were told was it's going to make you happy, and there's no happiness there because you didn't bring spirit along the way. It is very confronting. I had a nervous breakdown. That's what happened to me.
Uh-huh.
And all of, so I turned 30. I found out my husband was having an affair via a text message on New Year's night at 12 o'clock on our holiday apartment, in lavish draping. Here I find out my husband was having an affair. Was this the catalyst for your nervous breakdown, or had you already had a nervous breakdown going before that? What happened was, for that whole year prior to that, I was having panic attacks. I was being crippled. I was feeling crippled. My feet started being crippled. I couldn't walk on my feet. I had to wear braces. My asthma was at its worst it had ever been. I was taking daily steroids.
Wow.
I would say to my husband, who was blatantly lying to me, and my gut instinct was telling me something, but I was so devoted to the fairy tale, I was not going to let that, be broken for any means, was that my gut instinct was at the point where it so wanted to tell me something's wrong. I was at the point, I said to my husband, I think I'm on the brink of a nervous breakdown and I don't know why. I was crying just emotionally all the time. I was suffering depression. I didn't know it. I didn't label it as that. I had enough stuff to hide from it, because I could just go out and buy a new pair of shoes that would make me feel happy for half a day. But I cried more tears in that big mansion because it made me feel so hollow than I think I've cried in my life.
Yeah, plus the guilt that you were talking about that you feel because you think you should be so wonderful and you're not, and you just something's desperately wrong with you.
Yeah, and you know what I think, George, is that not enough people are talking about this. Everyone's walking around.
We hide it.
It's great.
Yeah, we hide it. We don't want anybody to see the dark part of us and that part that's really not functioning perfectly.
Because what would happen if, people who have supposedly made it actually walked out and said, I feel empty, and this is not what it's cracked up to be, and really stood in that, and didn't go on and say, well, yes, I'm wearing the newest, Chanel, or I'm wearing the newest whatever. And then instead of it being, hidden behind all that, what would happen to the world if many people came up and said, it is a lie, and it is actually not real. What is true is spirituality, the universal laws. That is the only truth that is ever going to make you feel whole.
Well, the problem, Maria, it seems, is that built into this this tremendous, desire we have to have all of these things and have the money, and is the real need to look good. And that need to look good keeps us from being able to tell the truth, keeps us from being able to say, hey, this isn't what it's cracked up to be, because part of the prize is looking good to your friends, neighbors, and everybody else in the world.
Yeah, but would it be interesting if everyone at one point just said, I'm done with looking good for you. I'm done with that, and, I'm just going to be me, and I don't need to have the bigger house and the bigger car and go into more debt to keep, whatever that illusion going on. I'm done. And I think being able to say I'm done is very, very powerful.
Well, it's very powerful, yeah.
It is, and that's what I did at 30, and I was done. And so the nervous breakdown happened because the husband left, but it was there probably about a year and a half, and I just hit it very, very well. I became an amazing actress. Not even my twin sister was aware of the nightly terror attacks that I would have. No one was aware. I was like not giving up the fairy tale for anyone. So, and this is what happens to people. If you want to be control free because you don't want to show everyone what's really going on, now this is where you'll end up.
Absolutely. And like you say, that one of the biggest things today that catches people who are in this kind of a box is prescription drugs. That's one of the that's huge, and also not talked about.
This is, if there's anything that is my, a byproduct of me being a spiritual dominatrix transforming people. It is me exposing what is the pharmaceutical companies at the moment. This pill-popping pain relief for every symptom and everything that we have has got to stop. And I have made no apology for, standing up in front of people to say, this has got to stop.
Absolutely.
Prescribing a pill for something that is natural, everything is cyclic. You would know that, George. Your listeners would know that. Everything has a cycle. Everything has an ebb and a flow. Everything has a season. So why wouldn't our emotions have a season? My husband had left me. I've been with him my whole adult life. Why the heck wouldn't I cry for his miracle about that? Why would then someone label as depression and then have a pill to stop me from mourning the life that I had lived?
Right.
Why? It is as natural. But you know what? We've become a very, very selfish society, and we don't care about anyone else if it actually interferes with our day.
Well, Maria, that I think you hit on the what I believe is the crux of the difficulty for us and the creator of the darkness that you were talking about, and that is our selfish self-centeredness. Hooray for me and to hell with you. As long as I've got what I need and I want, everything is fine. But that doesn't work at some point, does it?
No, because, in ancient civilizations, what happened if someone was affected in the tribe? Everyone in that tribe would sit and gather with that person who was mourning or that person who was going through emotion, and they would gather as a community.
Right.
What do we do now? It's like, screw you, I'll go to my next appointment, you just go and take a pill, get your stuff sorted out. When you're sorted out, I'll go and deal with it. Or hang on, I'm having an issue in my marriage, if you don't get a pill, I'll go and divorce you, I'll get someone else.
Exactly.
We have become a very egoic society. We are only connected, I'm saying on generalisation,
yes.
That many of us are connected to what is, as you said before, what is the show, what is the look, because we don't give a damn seriously about other people.
Well, the thing, Maria, is like both you and I have had this really dark, painful, difficult experience that caught our attention and turned us. And I'm sure that you were a totally different person from who you are now. Same, but somehow or other transformed, just totally different. But how, the problem is, maybe not the problem, but maybe this is, like where the problem with drugs and alcohol and the huge things that are going on, maybe those things are here and are necessary in order to help people find their bottom, I guess you might want to call it, or that dark place that flips them around. Because, there are more of those kind of transformations than there are seeing a white light and all of a sudden, boom, like you're transformed, it seems.
Yes, but I don't see, say, alcoholism or drug addiction as the bad.
Right.
And, someone who's living raw and meditating every day is the good. Again, it's part of the cycle. And
yes.
Some of us have to go through that cycle. But where I sort of get, empowered, help people, is when it becomes an excuse for everything happening in their life that doesn't go their way.
Right.
So, for instance, I'm coaching, and I do coach a lot of celebrities, and I coach executives, high-end executives, multi-millionaires.
Uh-huh.
And for instance, what really makes me, what gets me going is when they say, look at all these wonderful things that I've created. I've been able to create a movie, or I've created a multi-million-dollar company, or I drive a Ferrari, or I've got, blah, blah, I've got 3 girlfriends from a Playboy mansion, or whatever.
Right.
But then, they're like, come to me, it's like, because I'm about to have a nervous breakdown, I feel like I just can't handle this, and my mistress is giving me grief, and my kids are horrible. But they only want to claim the good stuff, that stuff, and they don't want to claim any of the other.
Right.
So I'm sort of, this is where I go, and they may be doing drugs, or they may be doing other things, but it's sort of like, you've got to, if you're going to do any of this work, the number one thing we have to claim is the good, the bad, the pretty, and the ugly. All of it as our own. And I think that a lot of people who are doing the activities that are causing them grief, they're not really claiming it as a production of their own consciousness or their own doing.
No, they compartmentalize it, don't they? They put it off over here somewhere, and it's a whole piece of them that doesn't count.
Yeah, and I suppose what I say is, if after someone's told me their whole story, and occasionally they'll be waffling on about their story, and I'll just say, shut up. I've heard enough of your story.
Right.
That's enough now, and stop going, because we can go on about, we can counsel people with their stories for another 20 years and counsel people with their past lives another 200 years. So we can keep counting that story. And mine is, well, hang on, that's just a story, but I don't care about that anymore. What's the energy behind the story?
Right.
What is the energy? What is going on here? Is your energy behind your life? Everything I do is on energy level. Is it guilt-ridden? Is this why you've created this story and that story and this story and that story and that story? Is it guilt-ridden, or is it shame-ridden? Is it because what's going on here? I only want to know about the energy. I'm sick of hearing about the story. And because the only reason I do this, I'm not uncompassionate. I'm the most compassionate, empathetic person. But I just feel it's now time to go, stop. Just stop with your, repeating the same story, and let's just look at it for what it is. Look at the fact, and let's now address it and action it. Action's a big thing that I think a lot of spiritualists, say they do, but not necessarily do.
Is that one of the benefits of the name, the spiritual dominatrix, is that you can give people kind of a preliminary idea of what they can expect from you, that they're going to get the truth. Does that kind of make it easier for you to move into that part of what you do with people?
Yeah. Well, what it is, and I sort of put it this way, so love and light comes together with lock and load. And I'm doing, a lot of speaking at massive Mind, Body, Spirit festivals in Australia. And I would get up on stage and I would say, what I'm going to do over the next half an hour, I'm going to give you some, love and light information, but it will be delivered lock and load. And everyone would just be like clapping and going, wow, I love the whole lock and load thing.
Right.
Because they've heard and read about this forever. We keep hearing it and reading it, and then we get another book and buy the next, the latest thing that's out, and we read and go, I know this stuff, I know this stuff, I know this stuff. Of course you know it, because your soul knows it. So
sure.
All I'm addressing is, when I'm really in this space, that lock and load, I'm not talking to your soul, I'm talking to your ego. Because this is the thing that I'm, I'm staring it straight in the eye, your ego, because your ego is a part of you that makes the excuses, that keeps you that keeps you locked in your daily pain.
So let me just stop you there, because the word ego, can cause a lot of confusion. What I'm hearing is you're talking about the false pride and ego, the arrogant part of us, and not the self-esteem type ego. Am I right? In other words, you're talking about the dark side of it.
Well, I'm talking about the personality programs, right, that keep you embedded in your own drama.
Right.
That's the best way to put it. So I'm not one of these spiritual teachers that believe we should destroy the ego. I believe the soul is smarter and wiser than the ego and needs it on a level in this dimension.
Sure.
In this dimension, I don't ever believe, get rid of it and let's just meditate in Tibet for the rest of our lives. I don't believe that's what we're here for. I believe we're here to learn lessons.
Yeah, what I've found is you have to take a look at all that darkness in it, but at some point you have to be able to put your arm around it and own it. It's part of you, and just maybe move out of it, but it's still part, and you need it. I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah, I'm really big and if you've heard me speak or if you've listened to anything that I do, I'm always say honour the good, the bad, the pretty and the ugly. Someone will say to me, I'm having feelings of anger, what do I do to get rid of it? It's like, don't get rid of it, honour it.
Right.
And it's a cyclic emotion. Everything is a cycle. Everything. So am I going to say when the winter comes along, go away winter, I want summer? No.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Same with anger. It comes up because there's a reason it's there. So now anger is channeled constructively is one degree of passion. Then, when people learn to channel these things and then create masterpieces out of it and create transformation, it never ever will you see anger as bad anymore. Never will you see your fear as bad, because everything comes up to be transmuted into more light.
So what I'm hearing you say is that our biggest issue is being victimized by our own feelings and emotions because we don't know how to deal with them appropriately or how to channel them. Is that right?
Yeah, and then people believe they are their emotions.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And this is the thing, especially when someone's suffering depression. And I want to say, George, even though I'm anti, medication,
yes,
is that if there are people out there who are medicated, I'm not saying at all go off the medication. I am saying that there are amazing doctors out there who have holistic paths as well as they have medical, who are actually putting people on holistic programs that actually coincide with medical.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that that's there. But what I get people to do is start seeing that what they're going through, their struggle, their drama, their control, their fear, is temporary. The biggest problem, and being someone who's had a nervous breakdown, rocking in the fetal position, being suicidal, wanting to jump off a bridge, who's had depression, the biggest thing was in that I thought it was permanent. I thought I would never get out of it.
Right.
And I didn't medicate myself. I didn't take the pills because Spirit told me don't take them. But that was my story. That's what Spirit told me, is don't take them, so I didn't. So I went down another path, a deep spiritual path, because I was told from Spirit that this was my awakening and do not numb your awakening.
That's very powerful. I went online and I read your little booklet there on intuition. It's excellent. I really recommend anybody that's out there listening. They may want to take a look at that. But back in I guess it was about 1984, I made a decision that was what I was going to start following and stop following my head so much and follow the intuition, which is really, for me, it's in the seat of my solar plex area, right in my gut. And boy, I'll tell you what, the path that I've taken has been sometimes strange and sometimes unusual and so forth. But I have to believe that, like you, it's been the cause of my awakening, and it's been the guide that's taken me away from the harmful places that my head would have taken me. Has that been kind of the case for you?
Well, that's what I mainly teach, is to get people from head space into the not necessarily heart space, but into an intuitive space.
Yes.
Because people get heart and emotions confused, and they go, "Oh, but my heart told me this," and it's not, because they're not listening to the gut. Because the gut instinct is the intuitive intelligence that flows through every cell, every muscle, every vein, every bit of blood in your being. It is intuitive intelligence. And so that little e-book, which you can download for free off my site.
Right.
Because everyone kept saying to me, you're this intuitive guru, this is what you do. How do I become more intuitive? So that's why I wrote that mini little book for people to understand this is not a gift. Psychic abilities are not a gift.
No, everybody has them.
It is as natural as breathing, and once you understand it's as natural as breathing, the saddest thing though, George, is that in our schooling system, in our educational system, we are purposely not told about this.
Well, they try and stamp it out of us. They're
like sort of teaching us to become mechanical, not intuitive. So if there was, there's a school that opens up where we're actually taught from the beginning to refine our intuitive ability. My God, what would happen to the new kids coming up? We would have less fear because we would be getting yes and no signals from our body all the time.
Well, the problem with that for society is that we become less controllable when we're in that intuitive space, and unfortunately, a good part of like society and religions is about control.
Yeah, I get you. And that is something that I definitely, I suppose, explore and I go to, and I, as much as I dabble in the spirituality, I dabble in all of that as well.
Right.
Because I think it's in the front of my miracle book, and I'm sure it's in the front of that one. But I just have two words: question everything. Because when you become too complacent, when you become too comfortable, it's actually not a good place to be. That's just my belief, and I believe that it's great to have ease and flow. I have a life that is ease and flow, that is miracle creating every day. I have an amazing life, but I'm not complacent and I'm not comfortable because I question everything. I want to know why are the Medical Association now spitting out pills at an enormous rate? Who's benefiting from that? Is it just the pharmaceutical companies? Is it, the politicians? Who is it? I want to know these things. I never want to be complacent.
Well, life is as we know it unfortunately, society as we know it, whether it's in Australia or whether it's here in the States, is about show me the money. And if you want answers, it comes down to follow the money. And just what you said, what's the root cause of this? Why is this happening? And you find most of the time it's far and away from the picture put forward for us to take a look at.
Yeah. So, and too many of us are just numb to the media's control of what's put out there. Too many of us are numb to whatever's on TV, whatever's on the magazine is true. And
exactly.
This is what I love about the internet. I love about Facebook. I love about social media. I love about these sorts of shows. Is I can be 100% me, and you and I can talk about all of this, and there's no media controlling it. There's no hierarchy controlling what you and I are about to say.
Absolutely. We can actually take our masks off and feel safe in doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just would emphasise for people to start thinking that way. Yeah, I am going to question everything. And it's not about being in that logical part of the mind and then going crazy, like a rabbit down the hole.
Right.
Just saying, what? Is this true for me? And this is where the whole infinite intelligence is, and I am all for infinite intelligence. If I'm here to help people awaken to anything, it is about the infinite intelligence. It is about the intuitive intelligence that is running through everything. If we were all connected to the infinite intelligence and we were all more, connected to the intuitive intelligence in us, we would not have as many problems as we have today.
Absolutely.
Because you know what? Because people always say, and people say to me, oh, no, I'm not psychic, I'm not intuitive. And all I have to say to them is there a time in your life where you just thought, you know what, I knew that was going to happen. I shouldn't have done that, I knew it. And I said, yeah, I do it all the time. Well, that's the infinite intelligence talking to you.
Well, the biggest troubles I have is when I refuse to listen to that. In things that are even simple. Sometimes I'll be walking out the door and it'll be sun shining, and this little thing in me says, "Well, take your umbrella." And I scoff it off. Well, I get soaked before I get home because I didn't pay attention to that part of me.
And don't you love how the infinite intelligence sort of plays tricks on you like that? So it's sort of like, well, if you're not even going to listen to us about taking the umbrella,
right?
And we've got a big project coming up for you. We need to get you to do those little things to trust them more, to prepare you for the bigger stuff.
Catch your attention. You got to get yes.
And for me, I say, someone put it very well for me. They said my intuition batting average is extremely high. I'm not saying that I get it right all the time because I'm here for the long run. I've got plenty to learn. I never would say I'm an enlightened being. I don't really want to be. I just want to be here experiencing, the good, the bad, pretty and ugly of life.
Right.
And embrace all of it. So, I do know that my intuition batting average is higher than most people. But I do believe everyone can refine theirs even more and more.
Well,
that's what that intuition is great for.
Yeah, I think our intuition batting averages go up as we begin to own the fact that we are intuitive and start to really pay attention to it and to listen and actually follow it. Changes everything.
Well, look, I am writing a new book at the moment, and this book's called Manifesting Miracles with the Universe's 5 Most Powerful Laws. And one of the things that I started the book because I realised that there were 3 things that would happen to most people. And the first thing that most of us would have is a bit of a tap, where spirit would tap us on the shoulder very lightly, saying, hey, how you going? We may get a little bit of a headache, we may start seeing synchronicity or coincidence, and spirit sort of saying, tap, 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 it's time to wake up. And then the second thing that would happen when you've denied the tap to spirit, because spirit doesn't want to always grab you by the hair, kicking and screaming.
Right.
And spirit then sort of goes, okay guys, we've got to, put it up a few notches. Then comes the slap. So spirit starts slapping you around a bit. You may lose your partner, you may lose your job, you may have these, incidences where you're thinking, oh, nothing's going right. You might have those awakening moments where you went, I knew I shouldn't have done that, and I did it, and your life starts getting really slapped. And those people, at that point, most people start exploring and waking up. But then there are the people like me who refuse to do that, even with all of this there, that I got the smack, the smack them to the ground kind of awakening. When
right.
spirit does take you by, you sound like the other saying, where Spirit takes you by the hair, kicking and screaming, and says, it is time for you to wake up now. I don't have another second. I don't have another day. This is it, and this is what's going to happen, and we are not, we can't wait for you anymore, so we get the smack.
Right.
So I think that the more intuitive you become, and for people who are sharing this message like you and I now, we've gone to the smack, but what I'm trying to say is not everyone has to go there. I do believe Spirit tries to get you a lot quicker than that. Not everyone has to be rocking in the fetal position, with a doctor trying to put medications down their throat.
Right. Well, I've gotten to a point where I've realized that I can have far less in the way of bloody noses and bruises just by paying a little attention and being willing to listen, like what you're talking about. You and I could talk. I'm sure for a good 3 or 4 hours and never touch on the same thing. But I want to talk a little bit about what I would like to do is see our audience go away with some of the gifts that you have, some real stuff that they can use. And in your book that you and Troy Hazard co-authored, The Naked Entrepreneur, you discuss 5 naked laws and how they work. How about just taking a little bit of time and going through each of those 5 so that our viewers can really have something they can sink their teeth into, something that can work for them.
Love it, because I'm all about tools.
Absolutely.
And the greatest thing is, I believe that these tools are free.
Yes.
It's free. I'm not selling a $25,000 program for you to come and join. The stuff that I teach is free because Spirit is free.
Right.
What Spirit teaches you is free. So the 5 naked laws, they were 5 naked laws in the book. And they came around because, the Naked Entrepreneur came around, but this is what I was teaching. And I named that book. I came up with the title of that book.
Right.
And the reason being was, people said, what are you going to, Troy was saying, what are you going to call it? And I said, it's really your story, but it showcases what I do for you. And he would just keep saying to me after every coaching that I do, he goes, just stop it. I feel like I've got my pants down in the middle of the street. I can't get any more naked.
Right.
Because I would just destroy and annihilate his belief systems about who he thought he was. He thought he was the Porsche. He thought he was the 10 companies he had set up. He thought he was the millions. He thought he was the river house. And I would just annihilate that. So, you're none of that. None of that. You're a very lonely, sad man who just really desperately wants to be in a relationship with a loving woman. I would annihilate that. So people decided that it was all about getting naked. So this is where these laws came in, because the laws were, for me, this is my life. I'm not teaching you something that I learned from, when I was studying psychotherapy or Reiki. These are me. This is what I live. This is what I breathe. This is what I can talk to anyone about, upside down, on my head, all day long.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you work very hard at walking your talk.
I am my talk.
Absolutely.
I am all spirituality. And people will say to me, you're so nice and you're so this, and I thought that you'd be different. Must be that some people put out something and they see them differently. They think they're going to be something else.
Right.
You're exactly like you are on Facebook, or you're exactly like you are on TV. And I'm like, because I don't turn this on or off for anyone. It ebbs and flows through my body.
Yeah, because that turning it on and off is the very thing that keeps us stuck and away from Spirit and away from our true. Yeah, absolutely. And I was
going to say, George, and my reality is, I'm a single mother with 3 children. I've been single for 7 years. I am a solo mum for 7 years, and I am living a real life, raising my kids on my own, writing books, and helping people. That is my life. That is all there is. This is it. My spirituality, my children, that's all there is.
Yes.
And that is the truth of who I am. So, my kids are teenagers, and they're the most important thing to me. But alongside that, they know that their weird mother has this thing that she does, and they don't even know what it is that I do. They go, they'll say at school, now what does your mum do? And they'll say that she writes books and helps people, because I don't know how else to put it.
Right. My children have the same problem with me. As a matter of fact, she just said the other day, well, what do I tell them that you do now, Dad?
Yes.
Yes.
And you know what? You're a spiritual illuminator. You're here and you're illuminating spirituality to people who are here to step into that space. And that's all we are. And I call people like us, and I'm not saying that I am any higher than or more than. I'm not saying that. But I know my soul's journey, and I know people like us. I call us the ambassadors of truth.
Sure.
We're on the front line. We're out there. You're not just hiding somewhere and pretending we're just doing this. We're on the front line, telling people what it is. And yes, there are people that say, you're full of crap. This is ridiculous. Just go out and make more money. And then there are people like us that can say, you know what? I've already been there, done that. It is not the truth, and I'm just sharing you my message.
Absolutely.
So. Ambassadors of Truth Unite. So I will go through the 5 laws.
Yes.
And I know that we've got about 10 minutes. So I'll go through. The first one is, get your pens out, everyone, and write this down. Or you can just photocopy it out of the back of the Naked Entrepreneur as well. But the first one is the law.
Maybe tell you what we'll do. We'll get Tom to put these up on the chat room for folks, too.
Which site? Are they on the site? Or do I have to jot them down as she's speaking
Jot
Australian?
them down as she's speaking.
As she's speaking Australian.
She'll tell you exactly what they are.
Go.
Okay. So I might even send you a little bit more detail than what I've got. But the law of claim is all about claiming your life and stop blaming. This is, the why I go in and I transform lives. Because as I said before, people go on about their story and their story and their story and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, stop. I don't want to hear any more blame. I don't want to hear any more stories. If we're going to go with the good, the bad, pretty and ugly, let's claim all of it. Whether we've created it from a conscious level or a subconscious level or a soul level or an energetic level, let's claim all of it. Because people say, you know what, my husband died on me. I didn't do that. And I have an amazing empathy. And I'm saying, but let's just claim all of it, the good, the bad, pretty and ugly, knowing that on some dimension, we've created this.
Absolutely.
We may not consciously go, this is what I want to happen and there will be a tragedy. No way. But somewhere in our energy we claim this. And also, sometimes something happens to someone else that's affected in our life that, of course, they've willed that somewhere in their consciousness as well. Okay? So that is really important. So I just make that statement. I am claiming my life. And if you find yourself gossiping, talking badly of people or your experiences and blame, stop it. It's as simple as that. Just stop it. So no more of that. So the next is the law of surrender. And the law of surrender is about surrendering your life and letting go of control. Letting go of the fear, the drama, the control. Surrender is all of who I am. My whole life is surrender. I am surrender. And the law of surrender is the ultimate universal law that there is. That's all I know. On the time that I went to jump off the bridge, that was shown to me the law of surrender, where everything changed. I saw the world and the oneness. I saw that I am the miracle, you are the miracle, we are the miracle one, and I have surrendered my life.
Right.
So when people are in that drama space, and there are drama queens, there are divas, there are people who are always in drama, and and I'm always like, if that's where I go, stop it, and shut up. So, but I just say, this is what you do: is you grab a notebook or a journal, and you begin a surrender journal, and all you do every day, a page a day. This is more powerful than a gratitude journal, because you need to start emptying the garbage in your mind. And you need to start doing it regularly. So what you do is you start with I surrender, and you just sit with your intuitive part of you. You go, what does that mean to surrender? I surrender the fear that I don't have any money. I surrender the drama surrounding my family. I surrender, my emotions, feeling like depressed. I surrender. And people say to me, well, Maria, who are you surrendering this to? And I just say, I don't care. Surrender it to infinite intelligence. Surrender it to spirit. Surrender it to a rock. Surrender it to Mother Earth, surrender it to a shoe. I don't care, but surrender it to anything other than you.
Right.
And know that when you surrender, that all of that stuff that you just blurted out is temporary, stuff that you created anyway. And what you're doing is by saying I surrender and I hand this over to the universe and I surrender this, you're not saying, okay, I've surrendered the pain of blah. Now, God, tell me when it's going to fit. This is not how this works. You're going, I surrender the pain of blah, and I now just let go of the control. There's nothing more for me to do. and just allow the divine universe to bless you with the miracles that are around you every single moment of the day.
I've had people suggested to people, in order to do what you're talking about, they have a little box and they just write it on the surrender on the box and dump it in there, and the box is called a God box for some people.
Yes, I've got a God jar. But the God jar for me is more about manifestation. I don't use the God jar as about letting go. I find the surrender journal is really powerful. You have a small one, you put it in your bag. So if you're having a bad day at work, run off and have a coffee and sit there and start writing in your little journal, and you start feeling a lot better, and it's just dumping the garbage, and you're surrendering it to God or wherever you want to do.
Right.
The big thing with surrender is there are some people, and especially that American high-powered executive people, that motivational, in-your-face stuff all the time, which really pushes every button that I have.
Right, because it makes that surrender almost impossible, doesn't it?
Oh, surrender? Why are you telling me to give up? What's wrong with you? I'm not giving up for anyone. I stand up for my... And they go into that, and I said, no, I never said give up. I said surrender in strength. You keep giving up as weak, but surrendering is the most powerful thing that you can do. And the reason that you're in the rubbish that you're in is because you are trying to do it all yourself, and you see it as weak. It is the most powerful tool, and it is a universal law that is there.
I'll tell you what, Maria. We have about 4 minutes to kind of 3 minutes to kind of cram in these last three. So why don't you give us the last three, and I want to save just a little bit of time. I have one last question for you. So maybe you can just.
Okay. I'll just skim through them. That's okay. So the third one is the law of illusion, and it's just basically saying that this dream that we're in is about the story. So you can create the most amazing story, or you can create, the worst story. So it's about people understanding I can create anything. Again, the good, the bad, pretty, the ugly. Now the fourth one is the law of intuition. Stop figuring life out and feel it out. The quickest way to get over that, to actually see that law, is go on my website. Go to the book page and download it for free. So go to mariaelita.com. Yes, download that intuition for free. That's the quickest way to get to that law. And number 5 is the law of synchronicity, which basically says nothing is by coincidence. Everything is with purpose, on purpose, and to be open to synchronicity, which really comes from being more intuitive and then understanding these 5 laws.
So let's take. There's a couple, about a minute left here. Is there one thing that you could suggest to change someone's life? What would it be?
Out of the one thing today would be begin the surrender journal. Just begin the surrender journal. It will cost you nothing, and you sit down, and what you do is you sit down with a blank piece of page and you ask Spirit to help you, and you say, I give up this drama, I give up this life that I thought that I lived, and you just start writing, I surrender over and over and over with everything, and let every emotion, let everything come up, and let it pour out, and hand it over to Spirit. There is a Spirit team waiting for you to do this right now.
And so I'd like to just tell our viewers what they just got was what you charge celebrities to help them with. It's a free tool. It's something that works. I really recommend that you take that up tonight and do exactly that. And take a spin over to Maria's website, mariaelita.com. We got 1 minute left. I'm going to have to say goodbye, Maria. I have just totally enjoyed you tonight, and at some point maybe we'll get a chance to get you back. I'd love to get a chance to meet you in person one day, and just good luck with everything you do.
Thank you, George. I'll hopefully be in the States in September, so I'd love to see you then.
Sounds great. I'll look forward, and we'll see if we can't make that happen.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Well, Tom, that was a really great guest, huh?
Awesome.
Now I think, for those of you out there who have questioned how spirituality and a spiritual dominatrix can possibly come together, I think you got an idea of how that works at this point. So we got about a minute left here, and I really appreciate your taking the time to come around and listen to and see our shows. Come back next week. I've got a great guest. And in the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic week.